in English language praise of the Buddha. Upon the earth below the sky, the Buddha has no peace. In 10 directions everywhere, he is beyond compare. He's gone beyond duality. He's never born again. With wisdom bright, he blesses me. He knows my joy and pain. He walked the noble middle way with strength and purity. In dark of night and light of day, his kindness launches me. He's not divine, but he's the way. He's neither come nor gone. I find him in each blade of grass. He is the wisdom sun. Guitar break. Last verse. I've searched around this whole wide world, and now I can declare you'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. Last two lines. You'll never find a wiser one than Buddha anywhere. Oh, that ended prematurely. There we go. I want everybody to appreciate something that's quite marvelous. This was handmade. Made by hand. Not by a company, not by machines. His hands. How about that? Yeah. You can applaud that one again. Okay. It occurred to me, we've got some people look at our summer camp and go, Dali, you know, you guys just like, you don't do anything. I mean, where's the swimming pool? You know, I mean, where's the ice cream? Where's the frisbee? You know, and most summer camps you go to have all of those things and more, you know, just because I have diversion and distraction and entertainment and things like, where's movie night, you know? And I was just thinking, we were doing yoga yesterday, and I was watching out the window, and we had, you know, Tai Chi rotating, hip rotations, and we had the Kung Fu going, ha, you know, ha, and over here, and we were in here, doing our stretches and rounding out and flattening out, and down in the half can, people were, rushing to prepare all the food that we were eating, and we had, families driving up, and it just occurred to me that what our camp is about is 84,000 Dharma doors. That's one of the cliches in Buddhism. They say there are 84,000 ways to practice, which is just a Buddhist way of saying many, many ways of practice. And it just occurred to me, I won't do it yet, but if we kept track of everything that happened yesterday in terms of activities we engaged in and dharmas we practiced, we would have a very long list, starting out with offerings, just the generosity of cooking. And so we chanted mantras, we chanted praises, medicine master, thus come one. We chanted the Buddha's name, okay, in a ritual way. We sang songs. We meditated. We bowed. We made offerings. So offering, praising, bowing, praising, offering. Anybody repent yesterday? Somebody must have had something to repent of. So there's repenting, right? So all of Samantabhadras, we requested Dharma. We rejoiced in merit. We allowed the Buddha to stay in the world. We followed the Buddha in study. We, all these things we did, plus just all the other activities, hiking and, exercising and stretching. Every day is just full of these practices that keep us going. And when I looked at what I wanted to share today, I thought, there we are. This is what we're about. Can we, first of all, let's open the front page, first page here, and let's recite, we'll do this every day, Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha, and then the verse for opening a sutra. Here we go. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, that last one is a full step. You're going da-da, and I want you to go da-da. Try this one. Do the half step. Buddha. Do the full step. Buddha. There we go. The third one, you resolve it. Otherwise, it's still hanging in the air, right? You got that? So we went. Let's see here. Da, 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 da. There was a C. Da, 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 da. There it is. Da, da. What do you feel when you hear that? That half, you go, still hanging there, right? Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The shoe hasn't dropped, right? Compared to Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Okay, so the first two are half steps. Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The last one, Fundamental Teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. There, you've landed. Okay, makes sense? All right. Verse for opening a sutra. Here we go. Together. Supreme and wondrous Dharma, subtle and profound, rarely is encountered even in 1,000,000 eons. But now we see it, hear it, and accept it reverently. May we truly understand the Buddha's actual meaning. Wonderful. Turn over to page 4. We stopped with perfect, let's see here. We stopped with inexpressible wisdom, right? Okay, we're going to start with, if you count from the top, paragraph 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Paragraph 6. Okay, we're going to read those two paragraphs. We're going to go paragraph 5. We're going to take a deep breath and go all the way over to the next to last paragraph on page 6. Okay, lots of reading. You ready? Here we go. How does he get strong in causes? Pause. Strong in intention? Pause. Strong in expedient means? Strong in conditions? Strong in that which is conditioned? Strong in faculties? Strong in discernment? Strong in shamatha? Strong in vipassana? Strong in meditation? Okay, just although it's not really a break, we'll just take a good deep breath here. Remember our instructions about reciting, how you use your ears as much as your voice? Okay, here we go. How does he get skill with the skandhas, skill with the realms? How does a bodhisattva get skill with the places, skill with dependent origination, skill with the desire realm, the form realm, and the formless realm? Skillful with the past, the future, and the present. How does a bodhisattva skillfully cultivate the branches of enlightenment, of mindfulness, of selecting the Dharma, of vigor, of joy, of light ease, of samadhi, of equanimity? How can he get the states of emptiness, marklessness, and wishlessness? Pause, here we go. How does a bodhisattva get the perfection of dana paramita, shila paramita, kshanti paramita, virya paramita, dhyana paramita, prajna paramita, and also the perfection of kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity? Brief pause. How does he get the wisdom power of being enlightened to what is right and what is not? The wisdom power of knowing the past, present, and future karma of living beings. The wisdom power of knowing the superior and inferior faculties of living beings. The wisdom power of knowing the various realms of living beings. The wisdom power of knowing the various understandings of living beings. The wisdom power of knowing where all paths lead. The wisdom power of knowing the defilement and purity of the dhyanas, liberations, and samadhis. The wisdom power of the knowledge of past lives. The wisdom power of the unhindered heavenly eye. The wisdom power from the ending of all outflows. Brief pause. How does a bodhisattva always get the protection, veneration, and support of celestial kings, dragon kings, Yaksha kings, Gandharva kings, Ashura kings, Garuda kings, Kinara kings, Mahoraga kings, human kings, and Brahma kings? How does a bodhisattva become for all beings a reliance, a rescuer, a refuge, a compass, a torch and a light, an illuminator and a guide, a supreme guide, a universal guide? Pause. How does a bodhisattva become, among all living beings, foremost, great, excellent, supreme, sublime, and wonderful, the highest and unsurpassed, incomparable and peerless? Very good. Stop there. Okay. 110 questions. Now, this is why ordinarily in the morning we're not going to use a screen and a projector, but I wanted to do that this morning because this is a little different today. We have a hardcore Buddha Dharma lesson. This is another side of Dharma teaching. On one hand, we take what we're learning and we put it into the world and we talk about, growing up bicultural or multicultural in today's world. Sometimes we just tune in to the Buddha's teaching as if we were students in the Buddha's own Bodhisattva Academy. What this Bodhisattva, foremost in wisdom, is asking is he's asking how to be a better Bodhisattva, right? He's asking for training. She is asking for training. It's totally gender-free. This could be either side of the aisle, right? So we're learning about Bodhisattva's dharmas. As I mentioned yesterday, the Bodhisattva wants to be immaculate so that he or she is no longer the issue, that they can focus with 100% of their attention and skill and strength on their students, on their family, on their relatives, on their living beings whom they have promised to help. Okay? So the Bodhisattva wants to disappear as quickly as he can, or she can. All right? And this, notice, that's what he's asking. How does, right? So, now, why is this? Because we're looking at the sutra that's said to be the handbook for bodhisattvas. This is how bodhisattvas come into being. So, is this basic dharma? Actually, it's not. It's not. This is already for somebody who has kind of got their head above the water of the sea of suffering. This is a text for people who have a clue already. And another way to say that is that this is somebody who's already asked themselves questions, such as, what is my life about? If the answer to that question is more fun, okay, that's a good answer. Most of the world, is aiming for fun if they can get free of things like disease and poverty and racism and misogyny and all the things and bad health, that can happen to a life. Many people simply live their whole lives pursuing pleasure and running away from pain. How do we run away from pain? Fill them up again, lads. In my culture, my Irish background, you go for 2 pints after work at 4 o'clock at the pub, and you sing, and you fight, and you drink stout, and you sing, and you fight, and you go to sleep, and you go get your tooth replaced because it was knocked out in yesterday's fight. That's life. And it's okay. There's not, for me to say there's something wrong with that is really arrogant and missing the point. However, there are people who say, is this all there is? And once you ask that question, you're in line for something like this. Okay? Once you ask the question, is this all there is? What is my life about? You might run into, if you have the connection, the affinities, you might run into this. So bodhisattvas are people who have figured that out. And the answer, often, if you're really lucky, if you meet good friends, the answer is helping others. Helping others. Okay? So the bodhisattva is trying to get himself out of the way. If he were, for example, a doctor, he just use that analogy because it's available, the doctor wants to be as skillful as he possibly can be so that he knows, he can diagnose what's wrong and fix it. Right? That's what the doctor's answer for what is human life about is there, fixing what was wrong. Okay? What a good life. All right? So, this bodhisattva starts in the same place as an arhat, but he or she is taking a different track and heading for a different destination. That's something I want to point out. Now, we are great, good friends with our Theravada Dharma brothers. We really are. The Arhat path is noble and pure and awesome. If an Arhat walked in the door, we would all be on the ground bowing because he would be glowing. She would be just radiant, and this feeling of strength in gentleness. This Arhats have this, if you've ever seen one, have you ever seen an Arhat? I don't know, they didn't hand me their card, Arhat, arhat@gmail.com. So, but you can imagine what it would be like, and yet the Bodhisattva from the start says, yeah, I'm a different road here, different road, heading for a different destination. What does the Arhat do? The Arhat says, birth and death is a prison, and impermanence and suffering are enemies. So we're going to defeat those enemies, and we've won. Now, that's a noble goal, right? That's already somebody who's made some big decisions about life, and they've used Dharma they've used their practices to defeat it. And they've come out of jail, the jail of samsara, right? Birth and death, big jail. You definitely, will go in behind bars when you die, and you're not free to choose. Okay, if you can beat that, whoa, awesome. Okay, the Bodhisattva says that's half the story. That's half the story. I'm free, but my relatives, my friends, my own flesh and blood are not. I'm not free. Okay, different destination, bigger, nobler from one point of view, all right? So that's where this begins. That's where this begins. So the Bodhisattva says, yeah, I really do want to learn how to do it. Please, Manjusri Bodhisattva, teach me. So all these questions, what we just read, back in our text now, what we just read starting on page 4 are his questions. And if you flip it over, what you see is, in those questions is essentially the Bodhisattva's curriculum. Manjusri could do it himself, but it's more effective if you got what's called an interlocutor, somebody who rhetorically says, hey, I need to know about this. Bodhisattva, and Manjusri goes, oh, I'm so glad you asked. Good job that you asked, right? Now I'll tell you. Does Foremost and Wisdom Bodhisattva not know? No, he knows, but he's the straw dog, I don't know. 走狗,不是走狗吧? 不是走狗. Yeah, 不是, okay. So he's a totem, right? He's a scare, no, he's, what's he? 提嘴羊,不是提嘴羊, no. What? 领口羊, correct. He's the guiding mouth yang, goat, right? So, yeah, he's the rhetorical, what's the English word for it? Somebody who knows the answer but asks it anyway, It's been, what's that? He's asking rhetorically. Actually, it's Manjusri who shows up that way. He's like, oh, I'm so glad you asked, because I was just about to speak, but since you brought it up, let me answer your question, It's a very skillful way of bringing forth the contents, of serving the food, right? Okay, we got to page 4. Let's look. How does he get strong in causes, strong in intention, strong in expedient means, strong in conditions, strong in that which is conditioned, strong in faculties, discernment, shamatha, which is calming, that's like chan, and vipassana, that's contemplating, that's like contemplations, okay? We have both those meditation techniques, strong in meditation. What is this paragraph? This is, you could say, the curriculum for study, the Wu Ming Xue. All of you DRBU students, pay attention here, okay? He's essentially, it's not complete and it's not totally accurate, but he is outlining what someone would learn as they were preparing to really apply for high-level bodhisattva dharmas, okay? If you're strong in causes, intention, expedience, conditions, and what is conditions, so subject and object, you're already, your mind is exercised. You're applying what you see to the world around you, very cool. All right, we're going to go quickly, otherwise this gets to be way too much. This is like reading the catalog. It's like reading the entire catalog of DRBU, right? Okay, what does he want next? How do you get skill with the skandhas? How do you get skill with the 18 realms? How do you get skill with the 12 places, the 12 links? Oops, try that again. The 3 realms and the 3 time periods. What are those? That is how the bodhisattva begins to learn the spiritual world. Notice these things are all immaterial, non-material. These are all invisible things. Okay, these are all invisible things. Here, he's still, with this paragraph, he still causes an intention, expedient means, still pretty much involved with the physical world. Here he's moved into the spiritual world. Teach me what I need to know about living beings and the world they live in. Okay, for example, let's just take one. Let's take one of these and unpack it. Like I said today, this is hard Bodhisattva Dharma, right? This is already like a big, powerful class of the kind of thing that you'd get if you were in a Bodhisattva academy. What are the 5 skandhas? Skandha is a Sanskrit word that means heaps or aggregates or collections or stacks or components. Those would all work. The first time I heard skandha, I thought it was like a Danish word, like a toast. Skanda, drink, Kind of that's what it sounds like. Skål. No, skandha means heap, and it's talking about what? Human personality. Any psychology students here? Anybody major in psychology? 1, 2, 3 psychology majors. Okay, this is Buddhist psychology, right here. What are the skandhas? Every one of us sitting here right now is made up of 5 skandhas, okay? What are they? Body and mind. Number 1 is body. Numbers 2, 3, 4, 5 are mind. This is the Buddhas looking at, Zhang Wei over here and saying, here's Zhang Wei, what are you? He would step back and say, through analysis, you are body and mind. And he would apply it to Jerry, and he would apply it to, everybody. So, okay, what are the mind parts? Well, that's interesting. They are feelings, thoughts, conditioned thoughts, called samskaras, and consciousness. Okay, we're not going to test you on this. We're just going to go quickly because there's so much, all right? But to say, okay, let's look at a human being. What are we? We're earth, air, fire, and water. That's the body. Comes together temporarily. When we die, it comes apart. It goes back to the earth, goes back to the air, goes back to the sun, goes back to the ocean. Okay, that's the first skandha. It's a conglomerate. It's an aggregate of stuff, borrowed. Our bodies are borrowed, right? We give them back, and we get another one. Okay, happens all the time, not only to humans, but to mosquitoes, to whales, to birds, to fish. So that's the first skandha. Oh, we're going deep today. Oh my God. What's the second skandha? Okay, now you can think of it as moving in, but it's not necessarily like when you get to the center, you've got the heart. No, it's total, so it's from the fingertips to the tips of our ears to the tips of our toes, all 5, but at the same time, you can think of it as refined subtlety, more and more subtle. Body is fairly coarse, because, you can feel it. Okay, number 2 is called the feeling skandha. So the body or the form skandha is number 1. Number 2 is the feeling skandha. What is the feeling skandha? It's a combination of sensations. I just patted my face and I could feel it, right? I'm aware of the humidity in the room that just popped up when 80 people showed up, 70 people, 60 people, right? More humid in the room. Were you aware of that? I'm sweating. I put on too many layers of clothes here. Humid. Okay, so that's a sensation. I'm also aware of the bench under my butt, right? This is hard. And my ears are picking up the whir of the projector. Okay, all of those things, those are all sensations, right? What do we say? We say sights, sounds, smells, tastes, sensations of touch, and then the mind touches dharmas, which actually is the next skandha. But there's one more in the form skandha, which is what? Sensations obviously connect with our 6 senses, so that's still body. But if you move one step, you could say deeper or more subtle or refined, you get to emotions. What are emotions? Emotions are not exactly physical, but when you get angry, your face turns black or red, right? When you get scared, you can turn white. When you get jealous, you turn green. It's true. You taste copper in the back of the throat, real jealousy. And so it's part body, but it's also it's mind. Fear is mental. If that wasn't true, horror movies wouldn't work. We love to be scared by a good horror movie because it's like, wow, what if? The mind, you just imagine all kinds of horrible things. So that's the mind, okay? Emotions lean towards the third skandha, which is thinking. So skandha number 3 is the thought skandha. So body, feelings, which include sensation and emotion. Think of one towards the body, one towards the mind. Number 3 is thoughts. And the Buddha said, yep, you got them. You saw the picture of the big spider on yesterday. That spider, he's this big, or she, I'm not sure. And it's a giant, and there are 8 eyes looking at you, all 8, And I'm watching the spider clean itself. It takes a leg and it cleans off from the webs and this stuff. Those are called huntsman spiders. They don't make webs. They travel. You think most spiders are like locked into their threads, their silk, right? The huntsman goes, choo-yee! It's so fast. And it's looking at me and making decisions based on my action. The spider's like, okay. Yeah, are you dangerous? You look like a wimp. I've seen worse. Yeah, Spiders there just sizing me up. Thinking. It's thinking. So the Buddha described the third skandha, the thought skandha, as a function. And this is really helpful when you think about your thoughts as not really you. It's almost like your thoughts think you. It's not you're thinking your thoughts. They are a function. The Buddha described them as waves on the water. I don't know if we're going over to the beach to look at the dunes. This is the gate to the Oregon dunes, is Reedsport's claim to fame. Okay? If you go and watch the waves on the ocean where tides come, they go like this. They go, right? Sometimes they're higher, sometimes they're lower, but they never stop like that. One follows the other. And you try to pick one out that is truly characteristic of the beach, and same as the others. And they come, and they come, and they come. And that's that. The Buddha said, thoughts are just the same. Jerry?
So that's very interesting. So Buddha is say the mind is not, he's categorized mind as 5 different kinds of activities.
Personality has 5 different.
Combined. And think, thought is just one of them.
It's one of them.
And I think there's a philosopher says, I think, so I am.
Yeah, Descartes.
So
I think, therefore I am.
The think is not the complete of mind.
Correct.
Think is just one of them.
Correct. It's a function, too. We identify with our thoughts, We really do. We get our identity. We learn, I'm really smart, we think. And our mom tells us that, And that's nothing wrong with that. It's just that the Buddha would say, that's a mistake. Spiders have thoughts. Mental impulses move in the spider's brain. And we don't think of spiders as being particularly intelligent, but here's an intelligent creature. You swat the mosquito, and the mosquito wants to preserve its life. Those electrical impulses happen in simple organisms. That's all it is, says the Buddha.
So all the living being has 5 skandhas, even
Yes.
no matter how simple the form of life.
If it comes into birth and it dies, it has 5 skandhas. Yeah, correct. Says the Buddha.
But do we have more complicated?
Absolutely. Getting there. Okay? This is only the 3rd skandha. Okay. And these are, 4 of them are mind. Okay? From feelings, thoughts, on to mind. Okay, so how interesting. Psychologist, anybody study psychology? Yeah, I did, but it was all neurosis and psychosis and paranoia and schizophrenia. Nobody talked about the healthy human mind. Well, that's why I took psychology. I was so disappointed. The whole class was cognitive dissonance. It's like, come on, get real. So this is real. All right, 3rd skandha. So think about that my thoughts are no more significant than sights to my eyes, sounds to my ears, tastes to my tongue. How about that? that thoughts just come through. So what was your first thought? Probably something like, I'm hungry. You know, first thought occurs the first time your brain is able to process electricity, maybe even in the womb. They say the last thought, people who have these rebirth experiences, right, near-death experiences and come back, they say, just before my body floated up, you know, out to the ceiling, my thought was, oh, I hope my children are okay. You know, I hope my daughter doesn't worry, you know. You have the last wave before you leave your body. Come back, another wave. Oh, my thoughts started up again. Those functions fired up. How interesting. We go wrong assuming that we are our thoughts. Our thoughts think us, in a way. Okay, that's number 3. Number 4, fourth aggregate, the Buddha said. Deeper level of thinking, still in the mind, deeper level of thinking. What is it? Things like language. Language is definitely a mental experience, let's say. It's a layers of thought together. You have to listen, you have to compare, you have to judge, you have to choose. It's not just a simple beep across the oscilloscope, the way the Buddha described thoughts. It's a deeper aggregate of thought to be able to respond in language. Okay, what about a prejudice? Oh, I saw that, you know, and I was told that's bad. I don't like that. That's not a simple thought, that's a complex thought. That's the 4th skandha. It's called samskara, and we don't have there's not a really good translation. How do you translate samskara, Jin Chuanshi? Yeah. What's that?
Formations in DRBA.
Yeah, formations is one of the, or sometimes mental formations.
Volitional
Okay.
formations, mental formations.
Mental formations or
Volitional activity.
volitional activities.
It's like
Those are clunky translations. Samskara, we translate. Samskara skandha, mental formations, volitional activities. It's the deeper mind activities. Moreover, they say there are two different branches to the samskara skandha, and the second one has to do with autonomic activities, non-volitional, such as breathing, right? Breathing, digestion, right? Nocturnal activity, or what's the sleeping rhythms? They call them, what is it? What is it? Akkadian rhythm? No, that's Canadian. Circadian rhythms. Yeah, the Akkadian rhythms, your Canadian roots, right? Circadian rhythms, right?
Akkadian rhythm's a kitchen party.
Say again?
Akkadian rhythm's a kitchen party.
That's right. Akkadian rhythm. Okay,
We like it more.
there we go. So the 4th skandha includes Akkadian rhythms. So it's all those things that happen as part of your life that are not physical, but they affect your physicalness, okay? And you can switch them, but at your own risk. If you do without sleep for 3 nights, your body needs to tell you to sleep. You're going to sleep now. I don't want to. You're asleep, you know. So, okay, and the last one, consciousness. Consciousness, so deeper levels of mind, right? So we're not simply thoughts, we're all kinds of thoughts. And the Buddha said, yeah, unpack them, here they are. Take a look. You know, how neat, right? So anybody who studies psychology, dig in, because this is rich, all right? So body, feelings, thoughts, mental formations, consciousness. Every human is made up of all 5. Every peregrine falcon is made up of all 5. Yes?
The quote, like, I think so I exist.
Yeah, I think, therefore I am.
Therefore I
René
am.
Descartes.
So
Yeah.
the definition of the thing, could that be expanded, or it's just like the basic? Because
Give me an
here
example.
have-
What do you mean?
You have different levels of thoughts.
Okay.
So the question I have is like the implications of that quote.
Okay.
The thing you know.
Right. Well, was Descartes right? A lot of people would say he really needed to meditate.
Okay.
So, so what about if you say, I've stopped thinking? What happens? So I no longer exist? The Buddha would say, yeah. Let's see. 心动百事有，心静万物无. Right? When the mind moves, hold on one second. Don't forget your thought. Be right with you. So when the mind moves, 100 things exist. When the mind stops, all 10,000 things are gone, says a Chan aphorism. So, right, these questions are exactly why we want to meditate, because why? The laboratory for discovering this is right there. It's in your body and mind. You yourself find out the answer to these questions. Comment.
I think, therefore I am, only means that you exist over the period of thought.
I lost that last bit. Only means?
It only means you exist over the period of the thought. I mean, you could be 20 different people. Like, I think, therefore I am. It just means I exist during my thought. It doesn't mean I exist for 10 years. It just means I exist for as long as it takes for me to think.
Okay. My ears are kind of old, and I think you got a really good comment, but I can't quite hear it because you're going too fast. And if you would slow down just a bit and say it again.
I think, therefore I am.
I got that. Good. So stop thinking, and then you poof, you're gone. Right? No.
But that only means that you exist
Yep.
while you're thinking.
While the thinking is there, yeah.
Yeah. But that doesn't mean that you exist over a period of time.
Okay, but that could be true, but the Buddha is saying that there are levels of thought that are not conscious. So what if you've got, he described it like, kind of like a river running along a very subtle thinking, and they don't even make it up to consciousness. For example, dreams. What about when you're dreaming? It's like the movie going on when you dream is so real, right? But then you wake up and gone, can't grab it. Where did that go? Where did it come from? Where did it go? It's like, do you exist in your dreams? Well, it sure seemed real. You know, I woke up in a sweat, but it's gone. So I think probably the answer would be, Master Hua would go, investigate. He would say, don't take it from me, look into it yourself. Don't just do something, sit there, right? Turning the phrase on his head, my mother would say, don't just sit there, do something, you know, because I was a reader, I loved to read. And the Buddha would say exactly the opposite. Don't just do something, sit there. Right? So, meditate. So, Can Huatou, look into it. We expect a full report by the end of the week, all right, what you've discovered, all right? To see whether, if you can stop thinking and therefore stop existing. Go for it.
I mean, the Buddha could be 12 different people. Like, the Buddha just says, just sit there, and, like, if you have one long thought,
Right.
you don't have to exist after you finish thinking.
Okay, but the deal is, you can't stop thinking any more than you can stop seeing or stop hearing until you're dead, you know, and then it's all over.
Oh, no.
But yeah, no, seriously, right. Hello, that's true. But so, this is, you know, your question is completely in line with why people meditate. So they can find out what is, you know, what's the relationship between thought and the world around you. For example, this sutra that we're looking at says, everything is made from the mind alone. Boom, you know, everything's made from the mind. So you mean Buddha Root Farm is made from my mind? Precisely, you would say, you know. So, okay, well that's heavy, you know. Like, what about, you know, Adolf Hitler and Auschwitz, made from the mind alone? Uh-huh. I'm not going to say anything, I'm not going to put $5 in the box. So, that's, you know, that's kind of like saying, oh look, there's Mount Shasta, it's all white up there. The white up there doesn't exist by itself. It's built on a whole basis of rock. You know, you look at the peak of Mount Shasta and you don't necessarily see the elevation leading up to it, right? We look at a statement like everything's made from the mind, that's the peak of Mount Shasta. It's based on all kinds of stuff, which are right here. This whole list of understanding, starting with what? Cause and effect, for example, right? This is all based on the idea that I'm responsible for the world that I create. I make it. So if America, for example, is experiencing this incredible rush, this incredible, what's it called, an epidemic of serial killers, like one or more a day now, right? The doctor being shot by a fellow doctor along with other, just it's so ordinary now we don't even pay attention because America makes the guns that get used, right? The NRA, the National Rifle Association, is a lobbying organization. It's a trade group. It's there to sell more weapons. So if you make the guns, we're the #1 arms maker in the world, second only to China and Russia. If you make the guns, they get used. Where they get used? Wherever they were created, right? In America, we live in a world of guns. You go to Canada, did anybody see Bowling for Columbine? Michael Moore's film? Recommended, okay? Did you see it, fam? Okay, so Michael Moore, right? He's investigating serial killings in America. And so he crosses the bridge from Detroit to Windsor, Ontario. It's the Windsor Bridge. We go from Michigan to Ontario, Zoop, right across the bridge. That's where I went to school. So Michael Moore crosses into Windsor, Ontario, and he's already come from a place where there are 40,000 plus handgun deaths per year, United States, right? Okay, so he walks down the street in Windsor, and he knocks on a door, opens it up and says, "Yoo-hoo, hello," and walks in the house. Now in America, chances are you'd be shot by, he walks in and he says, "Hello," pokes his head, and this nice old lady, grandma, says, "Oh, hello, good, how are you?" And he says, "Hi, my name is Michael Moore, I'm a filmmaker. Do you suppose I could ask you some questions?" She says, Oh, sure, no problem. Yes, what would you like to talk? Could I pour you a cup of tea?" she says. So she offers him a cup of tea. And so he says, "Well, I was going down the hall, I noticed you got this gun cabinet here at the end of the hall." She says, Oh, yes. He says, "Is it open?" No, it's locked. I haven't touched it for years, since my husband died." And he said, "What were those guns for?" "Oh, he was a hunter. He would go out and get a deer because there were too many deer and we'd eat the venison." And he says, "Did you ever hear anybody like turning a gun on another person?" "Oh, no, who would do that? Who would do such a thing?" she says. And he says, "Well, I'm an American and, a lot of people die." She says, "Oh, that's horrible," she says. She didn't assume that anyone would point a gun at another human being. She did have guns, but they weren't used for people. So he said, "Could you direct me, thank you for the tea, madam, could you direct me to the local police station?" So Michael Moore goes down to the police office, at the police station, and he interviews the chief of police, and he says, Captain Sloan, he says, "Did you have any murders here in Windsor last year?" He said, Oh, yeah, yes, we did. We had one. Who was killed? Oh, he says it was 2 Americans. They come across the bridge to shoot each other. That's Canada. They don't make weapons the way we do. So cause and effect, that's what makes the peak of Mount Shasta. The Bodhisattva is here because he has learned the 18 realms, the 12 places, the 12 links, the 3 realms, and the 3 time periods. This is Bodhisattva ABCs. Okay, so today is an intense dive into the curriculum of a Bodhisattva so that he or she can learn everything there is to know about the spiritual side of the world. These are all invisible, but nobody lives without forms, feelings, thoughts, volitional activities, and consciousness. And we die, we give up our body, and we come back and get another one. start over again, 5. You could say that death is trading in your set of skandhas. You could call it that. Okay, so far so good, huh? How about page 5? How does a bodhisattva skillfully cultivate necessary knowledge from the list of Buddha methods? The 37 limbs of enlightenment and the 3 seals of Dharma. Some people call it the 3 aspects of reality. What are they? Mindfulness, selecting a Dharma, vigor. It starts with the selecting a Dharma. Starts with mindfulness, selecting a Dharma, vigor, joy, light, ease, samadhi, equanimity. There are actually, the ones they name are 7. 7 limbs of enlightenment, also known as the 7 wings of awakening. Chi Puti Fanfa, they're called. Also called 7 Bodhi shares. We mention them in the Avatamsaka Sutra. That's not a very good translation. A Bodhi share, nobody knows what a Bodhi share is. Half Sanskrit, half English. Wings of awakening, 7 limbs of enlightenment. They are listed there. He asks about them. Then there are the 3 San Fa Yin, the 3 seals of Dharma, also called 3 aspects of reality, which are that all things are empty. Scratch that. It's not the 3 seals of Dharma. It's the 3 modes of liberation. Sanjiato, it's called. Knowing how all dharmas are empty, free of any characteristic, and nothing you can seek. Okay? They are Kong, Wu Xiang, Wu Yuan. All right? All right. More. Moving forward. Next. How does a bodhisattva get what? The perfection of Dana Paramita, Shila, Kshanti, Virya, Dhyana, Prajna. 6 Sanskrit words. We're going from the screen to the book, right? Screen to the sutra. We're in the middle of page 5. How does a bodhisattva get the 6 paramitas? Here they are right here. Those are kind of the shorthand for bodhisattva's dharmas. These are the 6 means of crossing over. Paramita means that, also called 6 perfections. Furthermore, he says, how do you get kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity? The 4 limitless, and I translated those as hearts. Si Wu Liang Xin. Some people say attitudes. How do you translate the Si Wu Liang Xin?
Or boundless hearts or minds?
Boundless minds.
Or Brahma Viharas?
Brahma Viharas, right. Kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity. The things that delight the bodhisattva, they say. So limitless kindness, limitless compassion, limitless joy, limitless equanimity, sometimes translated as serenity. 4 limitless hearts. Okay, let's keep going because there's a lot here. We're not going to illustrate every one. I think people are pretty much already full already. It's like, enough. Okay, this is the Bodhisattva's curriculum. Look at the 10 wisdom powers down at the bottom of page 5. How does he get? And we read the bunch, right? What are these? These are power tools for teaching people. Okay, I'm going to pose you a question. Imagine, if you will, somebody who you would like to make happy. Who would it be? Who's been really good to you in your life? Everybody has somebody different. Maybe it's not just one person. Pick one, though. And think, who is it who has been really, really good to you and just seems to have this overflowing love for you, right? Does that person ever have trouble in their lives? Do they have anything that really makes them unhappy? Probably. If they're alive and human, probably. What would you give to be able to help them when they're feeling down or blue or troubled or messed up? How could you do it? And mostly, I'll step into your vision of that person. Mostly, it's the problem why you can't do it is because you don't really know the cause of it. Why do mom and dad fight? How come mom and dad can't get along? Surely they were drawn together, they're living together, but they just somehow, there's something that something came up in their lives between them. You know, what was it? Suppose you could see it and fix it. Wouldn't that be something? So that the two of them, when they saw each other, their lives just sparked like they used to, you know? What would it be like? And now look at our list. Suppose you could look at those people, that couple or that person, and go, oh, if I knew what was really the case and what was not the case, I could always emphasize the right thing. What if I knew the karma that they did in the past so I could understand that? What if I knew how they were built, what they were capable of? What if I knew what realm they came from in the past? What if I knew exactly what they understand and what they don't understand? Just the things that are just beyond them, right? What if I knew where every step that you took led to? What if I knew the dhyanas, liberations, and samadhis, these forms of meditation, to allow me to be unmoving in the midst of the feelings involved in all of that? Humans with our feelings. What if I knew their past lives? What if I knew the realms that were possible, the heavenly eye? What if I knew how to completely stop all bad habits? 10 wisdom powers, I would know exactly what to say. Not waste a word, what to emphasize, what to enforce, what to support, so that the two of them would just find a door open to working their way out of their hassle. Imagine, here's the Bodhisattva's wisdom powers, right? These are just an incredible set of skills that Bodhisattvas want so that they can teach, right? That's what he's asking for. Isn't this cool? These 10 wisdom powers, they just came up in our other Avatamsaka lecture, the 10 grounds chapter, that the Bodhisattva is now at the point of the 10 grounds, which is already chapter 27. He's like way beyond chapter 11. He's already a senior in his curriculum. This is a freshman, you know. So, 10 wisdom powers, very cool. That's what he wants to know. Okay, now, those are always kind of posed as the best. Those are, once you know those things that we just ran through, those 10 powers, you're really able. You can really teach. Because one look and you know what's going on. Talk about a doctor's ability to diagnose, right? The Bodhisattva like, I got it. Because these are available to you. How neat. Then, having done all that, how does the Bodhisattva get protection, the respect, and the support of spiritual beings? Gods, that's the celestial kings, dragons, yakshas, which are ghosts, gandharvas, spiritual kings, asuras, which are fighters and titans, garudas, these huge birds, kinnaras, music spirits, maharagas, kings, great snakes, humans, and Brahma kings. The spiritual pantheon, right? Tianlong Babu. How can you get them to respect you, says the Bodhisattva? Because if they respect you, your life is pretty easy in the world. Nobody can mess with you. Seriously, this is like eyes open in the spiritual world. How many people, anybody in this room ever once in your life play a video game? Hands up. Ever like once, ever? Yeah, like maybe more than once, maybe like a million times, maybe like your Game Boy is in your pocket at the moment, right? Okay, when you look into those stories, the gods and dragons in the Eightfold Division are real spiritual beings, not just Golgoroth on your, it's not just some game designer created this being. They modeled those after the real spiritual beings. If a yaksha king was coming in the room, we would all soil our trousers on the spot, because they're like, They're the most evil, nasty creature you can imagine. And when they see the Buddha, they put their palms together and they bow. They look at the Buddha and they go, he's totally not afraid of me, and what's more, he's awake. I want to be like him, right? The gods and the dragons and the eightfold spiritual nasties draw near the Buddha because he's got something they want, which is no affliction. They still have things they're afraid of, things that can beat them. They're still fighting. The Buddha doesn't fight anymore. And he's not afraid of dying because he's reborn in inedible form, right? The Buddha's Vajra, he can't be digested. So real spiritual beings, not just video game spiritual beings, right? Okay, how does a bodhisattva become for all beings? What? A reliance, a rescuer, a refuge, a compass, a torch, a light, illuminator, guide, supreme guide, universal guide. 10 things, which is, that's to say, when the bodhisattva applies all of these, everything he or she has been learning, right? This curriculum, he's now mastered, he's got it, he can do it, and he has become what he vowed, what she vowed to become. A real hero, superhero, okay? How does he become among all beings foremost, great, excellent, supreme, sublime, wonderful, highest, unsurpassed, incomparable, and peerless? The bodhisattva here makes vows and says, if I don't save living beings, who will? I'm not going to wait for other people to step into their line of suffering. I'm doing it myself. Okay? That's the end of 110 questions. You see why he's asked for all these things, because she really wants to be a bodhisattva. And he knows, this is that rhetorical thing, he knows that by naming all these things, Manjusri is going to teach about all these things. So Foremost in Wisdom says, this is what I'm going to need. Manjusri Bodhisattva says, hey, thank you, well done. At that time, Manjusri Bodhisattva said to Foremost Wisdom, good indeed, disciple of the Buddha. You've asked about such meanings out of a wish to bring benefit to beings, to bring them deep peace and security, out of pity for beings in the world, to benefit and delight gods and humans. One more paragraph, top of page 7. Everybody got it? Page 7, let's read together. Disciple of the Buddha, if all bodhisattvas can skillfully use their minds, they will get supreme and wonderful merit and virtue. Among all of the Buddha Dharma, their minds will be unobstructed. Okay, yeah. They will get supreme and wonderful merit and virtue. Let's read the next paragraph is what the benefits that will come to them if they can do this. One more paragraph, actually 2 paragraphs, and then we'll be ready for the verses. Here we go. They can abide in the way of all Buddhas of the past, present, and future. They will never renounce or leave it while they live in accord with living beings. They can completely understand the true nature of dharmas. They can end evil and be endowed with goodness. They will be like Samantabhadra. 5 A's, Samantabhadra, okay? They will be like Samantabhadra, who is foremost in his physical appearance. They will be replete with practices and vows. Nothing will make them ill at ease. They will act as the second guiding teacher for all beings. Brief pause. Disciples of the Buddha, how does one use his or her mind to get supreme and wonderful merit and virtue? End. Stop. Good. Okay. Those are the benefits. Manjusri says, if you can do these things, that if you can master all the curriculum that you've laid out for us, if you can truly graduate from Dharma Realm Buddhist University, all of these good things will happen to you. I want to point out, end evil and be endowed with goodness, and be like Samantabhadra. Samantabhadra is the quiet bodhisattva. Of all the 4 major bodhisattvas, Guan Yin Bodhisattva we know about, and Earthstore Bodhisattva we know about, and Manjusri Bodhisattva is talking. Samantabhadra is the one that you kind of don't know so much about, and he is on an elephant, And he is said to have the most wonderful physical appearance of any of the major bodhisattvas. And he's the best in practice. He's the foremost in practices. So he's the one who's got all of these down pat. And he's also one of the major speakers of the Avatamsaka. Samantabhadra takes a lot of turns. Many of the chapters of the sutra are spoken by him. Okay? So, what's that? Puxian Pusa. Puxian Pusa. Right? Samantabhadra. Yeah, we say universally good. We used to call him universal worthy, but that's not the best translation. So take a look at this. This is the making of a true superhero. Hollywood is currently in love with Marvel Comics. Marvel Comics is the publisher of superhero comic books, including, starting out with, was Superman Marvel? No. They were Spider-Man. And who else? The Hulk and Thor and the Green Lantern. Was he a Marvel?
That's DC.
That's DC. See.
It's Hawkeye.
Hawkeye. Wonder Woman?
No, that's DC.
DC. We've got some resources here. Who was?
Deadpool.
Red Bull.
X-Men.
Red Bull's a drink, not a.
Deadpool.
Oh, Deadpool. That's right. That's right. Okay, Marvel. That's Marvel, and Marvel is a publishing house, mostly Stan Lee and people like that, who were both incredible artists and very imaginative writers, and so they gave us these kind of role models who were human but superhuman. They had like one attribute was exaggerated: speed, strength. Spider-Man, Spidey could shoot webs out, and fly through skyscrapers and do in the bad guys before the cops got there. And so that's when you put the comic book down, it's like, oh, cool, but not real, right? And here you look at this, and the Bodhisattva wants. I'm going to shut this down here. There we go. Here the Bodhisattva is saying, if you can do those things, what happens? The line that I like is, they can live in the way of all Buddhas of the past, present, and the future, never renounce it or leave it, while they live in accord with living beings. That's the Bodhisattva path. So in the midst of, Syrian refugees having to run from an insane dictator guy who's using poison gas on them, and what do? They go through Libya, which has a seacoast, and they get into these horrid rubber boats that are meant to hold 20 people, and 60 people jump in, and they set off across the Mediterranean. The Mediterranean is a big, vast sea, and halfway across, the boat capsizes or a storm comes up, and 60 people drown. And that's your baby brother that you see going away from you because you can't swim, and there he goes, and And, it's like the Bodhisattva says, yeah, that's where I go to work. That's where I am. This is my turf, this is my realm, it's my office. I've got to figure out a way. Then what? Suppose the boat makes it to Greece or to the Isle of Lesbos where they get off. Suppose they get off. Then they get herded into a pen with a chain link fence and toilets that stink because there's no money and no oversight, and they have to wade through turds to get to the toilet, and then it's not worth it. And then what do? And you're hungry. And then you get off of the island of Lesbos and you get to, we'll go through Hungary. Well, Hungary closed the border. And you can't go to Hungary anymore. And there's 6,000 people around you, all having to figure out where you're going to have grandma sleep tonight. And grandma's shivering because she got cold in the boat, And you go, this is human misery. This is human misery. And the Bodhisattva says, yeah, that's me. That's where here I am. Sign me up for the work, I'm going to find a way. And, you know, we're talking hypothetically. Here we are sitting in the forest in Oregon, talking about something that's happening where? Essentially next door. If you travel, if you get out, you know, you board the plane in San Francisco, 12 hours later, you get off the plane, you're in Taipei. You're in Tokyo, you're in Hong Kong, you're in, you know, Brisbane. And it's not far away at all. Those are all healthy destinations at the moment. But my goodness, you could easily get off the plane in Kabul. And when you get off the plane in Kabul, you don't know if the guy next to you is going to blow himself and herself and you up. You don't know. So that's our planet. It's just this tiny globe, and humans are messing up. Humans are screwing up. You don't see badgers blowing themselves up. You know, you don't see starlings shooting each other. You know, what's going on? Well, it's the Buddha would say, it's the karma of our world. There are worse worlds and there are better worlds. We're in a medium kind of world, says the Buddha, where suffering and joy are mixed in together. But boy, maybe it's just that somehow with media, we're able to see more of the barbaric behavior of humans. Maybe it's always been that way, we just didn't know about it. But now because, you know, you just take your phone and it's a movie camera, you can video everything going on. So we know about these things. Maybe we've always been this bad, or maybe we're really worse than we ever were. Hard to know. In any case, here we are, you know, we drove vehicles to get up here, consuming fossil fuels, which are definitely finite. There will be a time, conceivably, when there won't be any gas to get us to Buddha Root Farm. You know, we'll have to either set out with what? Electric cars. Good point. So, you know, yeah, why not? Why not? It's coming fast. And there will be driverless. There will be no driver in that electric car. It'll be completely self-driving, you know. So, there we go. And what about food? You know, they say that probably the next major world-sized disaster will be the Greenland ice shelf. They say that underneath the Greenland ice shelf there are now rivers flowing that you can't see, but they watch them. There's a way of detecting them. And when the base is liquid, it won't be long. There will be a moment when suddenly a piece the size of Rhode Island is going to go boom, into the ocean. And there are people who are clocking that, but when the government suppresses news of climate change because it's not expedient for them, makes them look foolish if they publish news, you don't hear about it unless you read alternate sources. So alternate sources say the Greenland ice shelf is cracking in serious ways. And the thing is that it happens quick. And suddenly, oh my goodness, look at that. Who knew? Well, we knew, but we were being distracted by Beyonce's twins, right? Okay. And somebody else's divorce, you know, and somebody else's, what they wore at the opening of, you know, the Academy Awards. And that's mass entertainment designed to keep us from noticing that the house is burning down. You know, the Buddha called the earth a burning house. Sure enough, our house is burning. When does it start to touch us? You know, we have these blessings that allow us to come to the mountaintop to look deep into the situation. How special that we got here. And I don't see anybody like with tuberculosis here, you know. I don't see anybody like starving from hunger right this minute. Not with the lunch planned for us today, right? We're not going to starve. That's a blessing. That's huge, given the amount of people who don't have a dry place to sleep and food waiting for them. My goodness. But look ahead, and we shouldn't take our blessings for granted. Things could change really, really, really fast. We could find ourselves, you know, suddenly, what do you give up first? Probably fish. Seafood is going to vanish pretty quick because it's being fished out. And imagine if you, and for 6 generations back, you were a lobsterman, or you lived on cod or haddock. You know, the maritime provinces in Canada, people live by what they can pull out of the ocean. And we've changed it. The ocean is warmer. Where I live in Queensland for part of the year, just north of us is the Great Barrier Reef. The Great Barrier Reef is the largest living being on the planet. It's the largest living thing. And the last 2 years, last year and this year, I guess they counting back, so it's 65 and 66, the Great Barrier Reef had what was called a bleaching event, they call it. And coral, the Great Barrier Reef is coral, it's a living being. It's a little aquatic creature that the coral is what it exudes. It's kind of its perspiration, you could think, although it's in the water. And so that living being inside depends upon the water being a constant temperature. The ocean doesn't vary in temperature much. It's huge, right? Pretty much constant. And the salinity, the salt level has to be pretty much the same. It can't be acidic, a little more, a little less. It can't be warmer, a little more, a little less. It's warmed up. The coral is dying. And Queensland, the government of Queensland and the government of Australia, so the state and the federal, were doing these amazing interventions. They were going to take dry ice and go cool the water off, you know, and try to save it. Because it's like, what is it? Something like 600 miles long? 400? No, not that long. It's like, what, 100 miles? The Great Barrier Reef is 100 miles. It's huge, huge, huge. You can see it from space, right? And they said the last 2 years surprised everybody. It came too fast. They've given up their scheme of trying to save it. They say it's just gone it's too big, it's gone too fast. They think it might be over. And if the Great Barrier Reef dies, the planet loses one of its major organs, like lungs. Graciela. Yeah, go, please.
I just wanted two things I wanted to share. One was just like while you're speaking and talking about like everything that's going around, and especially like working as I'm a public school teacher, so I kind of also see what's going on with families. One thing that helps me is that like something that I focus on is trying to continue to cultivate and be a good person, and to have basically to be the light. Like as this darkness, there's a lot of darkness, and so is be the light and kind of be that refuge, like that refuge for others. As you know, I mean, I work with a lot of people that are suffering. I mean, there's people experiencing joy too, but they're suffering, and it's like a breath. I don't know how to explain it, but sometimes because I try my best, you know, to cultivate and be a good person, it's like a breath of fresh air for them, and it's also like hope. And as I cultivate, hopefully the people around me are affected, and then theirs affected, and it's like a ripple effect. Is it going to be able to do the whole thing, you know, like the whole world? I don't know, but if there's more of us doing that, we're creating ripple effects. There is that hope and there is that light. I see myself as an observer of just some of the stuff that's going around.
As Chela said, she tries to be a light in the darkness. My job is to keep this alive. And I think that's part of Master Hua's job. That's how he defined he spent 90 minutes of every day he was in America opening these and saying, look, 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 look. And it's not, I mean, I'm not alone in doing this. There's a whole bunch of what are called senior disciples who kind of said, okay, we get it, Sherpa, we'll try our best. There are people in robes who totally do not get that message, who absolutely do not want to open their mouths about the Buddha Dharma. And they're, you know, so just to say, it's not everybody, and people have different callings. And to hear her talk about, you know, the world she lives in and how she's defining, just keeping the hope going. There's a lot of bright light and a lot of hope. And knowing that, and we haven't gotten here yet, we just mentioned the mind. He said, if you can skillfully use your mind, that's what we're going to lump on tonight. Shan yong qi xin, use your mind well, you'll get merit and virtue that lets you do these things, he says. And the next point, now that we've laid out all these things to learn, the next point is to pin them back to the nature. The learning is not acquiring, it's uncovering. Every single one of those things we heard about are inside. Every one of us. Which is when cultivation pops up as how you pull the covers off. So, interesting. We'll get there later. Okay, time's up. What's that?
We need a 2-hour lecture instead of 1.
Yeah, try to digest all that. We've got movement next. Now people pick out their movement of choice: yoga, tai chi, and kung fu.